welcome to 25 Days of Animal Facts. Today we're going to be talking about one of my personal favorites, the coyote. Also called the coyote, coyote, yote, song dog, prairie wolf, you name it. So as you can see from my personal collection here, coyotes come in a wide variety of colors. You have, your typical kind of brown coloring. We have a brindle coyote, a red coyote, black coyote. This one's a western coyote. And over here we have a black and tan coyote. They come in more colors than just these, but this is what most people are used to seeing when they're thinking of a coyote. And they don't just come in a lot of colors. There's actually a lot of different subspecies of coyotes varying on their range. And let's talk about their range for a second, because coyotes are some of the more unique species. They're what's called a cyanthropic species, where human involvement has actually helped expand their range, whereas with most animals, human involvement tends to kind of shrink animals' ranges and make them more rare. Coyotes are highly adaptable animals, and human agriculture especially has really helped them expand their range. We, for one, eliminated wolves, their biggest threat, as well as reduced populations of other predators that would keep them in check, such as bears, which has also eliminated their competition. They filled in for wolves in a lot of areas of the US where we eliminated them. Not only that, but just the nature of how our society is set up, we provide more food for them, not just with our cats and our small dogs, but also just by creating a lot more mice, a lot more vermin animals. These guys are nature's pest control. So they very much like that we have fields for them to go hunt in. They are very adaptable, and they will even be found in like cities. Especially we saw that during the COVID outbreaks, that coyotes were getting pretty ballsy and coming into cities a lot more often. I've seen them in my own neighborhood. They will sneak right by houses and you'll never even know they were there. Now, luckily for us, coyotes aren't much of a problem. They're very small. Most coyotes only range from about 25 to 35 pounds. The larger of the bunch can be more in like the 40-ish pound range. I think that the largest on record was around either 60 to 70 pounds, but those are incredibly unlikely. There are differences though when you look at eastern versus western coyotes. Now I'm in the west, but an eastern coyote is actually called a coy wolf because they do have wolf content. They also will act a little bit more like wolves, so they'll be bigger. They're more likely to stay in a pack. Coyotes are pack animals, but they tend to travel and hunt by themselves solo, whereas eastern coyotes are more likely to hunt in a pack. They're also more likely to hunt deer over there because they do hunt as a pack, and it's a lot easier for them to because they are not pure coyote. They do have dog and wolf influence in there. Whereas here in the West, they're more likely to just subsist on the mice, the smaller rodents, the rabbits. One thing that I also think is kind of interesting is they're now coming down into South America. They're in Central America right now. They've expanded to pretty much all of North America. So it's going to be interesting to see whether the forests down there help them or make it harder for them to exist. Now, unfortunately for coyotes, they have a really bad reputation. People just do not like them. They think they're a much bigger threat than they are, even though they're not a very large creature, and they mostly just rely on going after rodents. People do see them as a threat to their livestock, especially for animals such as chickens or even rabbits. But ultimately, if we can learn to coexist with them, it does us a lot better than to try to eradicate them. In order to successfully eradicate a coyote, you have to control 70% of a population in an area for it to be effective, which is unrealistic. Another issue people have is they can't tell a coyote apart from a wolf. This has actually been a huge detriment to red wolf reintroduction efforts because people think that those are coyotes as well, even though honestly there's quite a few differences. I mean, just look at the size difference between these two for a second here. Despite being basically persecuted here in the US, I know that here in Nevada we still have hunting derbies for coyotes. Their biggest threat is actually going to be cars. Most coyotes in the wild do not live to see their third birthday, and I think the statistic is over half of them end up in traffic fatalities. Which is honestly such a shame. I know that here at my house, I love listening to the coyotes. Canis latrans, their scientific name, actually means barking dog, and one thing that's really cool that they use is a vocal technique called Baugest, where it sounds like there's a lot more coyotes out than there actually are. So I'm going to play a video for you in just a second here that shows this, and I want you to keep in mind there's only 3 coyotes howling in this video. Anyway, this video is getting long, and if left to my own devices, I could probably talk about coyotes for hours. So I hope that you learned something new from this video. I definitely recommend you go and look up more about coyotes on your own time, though.